So if we'll just take turns, just introducing ourselves. We have a couple new people here today. Ernest, would you like to start?
Hi there.
Hello, everyone. My name is Ernest Covington III. I'm the Executive Director for the Rhode Island Commission for the Deaf and Hard of Hearing.
And we have Bethany is helping us run this meeting with the commission. So she's our big help for this. So thank you, Bethany, as always. I'm Denise Corson. I'm the ATEL Program Coordinator, and I'm the chair for this committee. Paul?
My name is Paul Hewitt. I'm from the Office of Rehabilitation Services in Rhode Island.
Jeannie?
Hello, everyone. My name is Jeannie, and I am working at the Rhode Island School for the Deaf, Transition Coordinator. And my name is Amy Hogue, and I'm a part-time worker, and I work with the deaf and hearing, hard of hearing community.
And she is also a new committee member. So thank you, Amy. We appreciate you joining our committee. Jan?
I'm Jan Luby. I'm with Perspectives and happy to be here, and welcome Amy.
Rochelle, would you like to
Thank
introduce?
you.
Hi, my name is Rochelle. I work at Perspectives as well. I work in our Human Resources Department, but also work with our Deaf and Hard of Hearing Department.
Thank you. And Heather?
Hello, everyone. I'm Heather Niederbauer, and I work with Perspectives as well. I'm really looking forward to seeing the work that you're doing here on this committee.
Thank you, Heather. I have a couple people later, so we'll start. If we could share the agenda, Bethany.
Just one moment.
And if we just take a minute to look at the agenda, about our committee update, which we kind of already mentioned. Amy's our new member. We can discuss the webinar that we did on Monday and the next webinar that we're discussing on role models for the deaf and hard of hearing and how we want to go about what format we want to do. And we also have two additional people from Perspectives here today that want to talk a little bit about an issue they're having with direct support for their deaf employees. So that is our agenda for today. And if you could review the minutes next, Bethany. If everybody just take a minute to review the minutes. And if we can have everybody that is not speaking turn off their cameras. And as we're going on, we'll turn on your cameras as if you have questions to make it easier for people that are using our sign language interpreter.
Okay.
Does anybody have any questions on the minutes? Feel free to turn on your camera or put something in chat if you do. Dan?
You're on mute, Jan.
Muted.
Can't hear you.
Sorry. I move to accept the minutes.
Can somebody second that?
And Jeannie says, I second that.
Wonderful, thank you. We'll just, which we already kind of discussed, but we do have a new member here today, Amy. Do you want to speak a little bit more about your journey and employment in Rhode Island and what you're looking to get from the committee?
Sure thing. My name is Amy Holt, and I work part-time at the Dr. Harris Public Library as a library assistant. So I am basically the frontline person that you see when you enter the library. I have been in 2008. I got my bachelor's in history. 2010, I got my master's in library and information sciences. So I have been consistently looking for full-time employment since then. For various reasons, I've only ever had internship or part-time employment. So my vision is really to try to find full-time employment as a deaf person in the state of Rhode Island. And my vision for that would be full-time employment with benefits and everything. So I really just want to see if there's other deaf people out there that are having the same struggle that I am. And if so, what can we do to help them? If not, what resources are out there to help me become a contributing member of society?
Thank you very much, Amy. And we are a fairly new committee. So again, it's wonderful to have different perspectives. So we thank you for joining us. And again, we hope, to be able to make a difference. Ernest did share some information I sent out in email a little earlier today, and there's also a link in the chat that Rhode Island or Providence was the worst city for disabled out of 47 out of 50 states. So we have improved in the employment in the last few years, and we were at the bottom, but in 2019, we're not number 19. And part of that is due to Gina's Real Jobs, Rhode Island, which gave disabled workers 7,758 new jobs. So that looks like that was a great initiative. So that's, something. So that was a great initiative. Hopefully more of those things we can help share the information and have more things like that. I also shared an email earlier this week that there is a bill for a workforce to support disabilities. And I also, on my webpage for my work for ATAP, Assistive Technology Access Partnership, I also shared that information on there about the bill for workforce for people with disabilities. So hopefully there's things that we can help spread the word and make the world a better place in Rhode Island for people with disabilities. So Jan, you had a question?
Good. I was wondering how it went on Monday night because I couldn't be here. So
That's on our topic. That's on our agenda. Yep. So I think we had about, other than the people, we had about 5 additional people. I know Paul was there. Jeannie was there. Do you want to comment on your thoughts on the webinar?
I thought it went very well, very smoothly, and it was informative. I was impressed. I was happy for us.
Wonderful. Jeannie, how did you think? What were your opinions on it?
Well, I thought it was great information. I thought that, for some of the participants though, I know who those participants are. Maybe the presenter could have used a little bit more, let's say a little bit, they could have slowed down a little bit. Okay. For example, how to, fill out an application. Because if the presentation keeps on going, then some people get overwhelmed. Too much information, because a lot of people get lost when there's too much information. So I think slowing it down a little bit and elaborating on each of the points might be a little bit more helpful. But other than that, I thought it was great.
Okay, wonderful. And I think it's a different perspective when you have somebody that's familiar with the deaf community, versus somebody that isn't. So I think that the Disability Law Center might not be as familiar with trying to keep a slower pace. So that's a great thing to remind future presenters. Before we move on to our next webinar topic, I know we have Heather and Rochelle. Do you want to speak about what the issues you're having that you would like the employment committee to help out with?
Okay.
I don't know if Heather wanted to start, but I can at least start by saying that in our direct support positions for our residential programs, we are really in need of staff, especially for our deaf and hard of hearing department staff who know sign. That has been very difficult. And so we're very, very short staffed. And so that's part of why we were coming here to kind of see, I don't know what resources we can tap into. I don't know if Heather wanted to add or say more, but sort of baseline, that's kind of why we're here.
So you're really looking for people that are interpreters, kind of like that, no? So
No, not interpreters, really hearing people, deaf people, anyone who knows sign, because the people that we work with in our programs are deaf or hard of hearing. So all of our staff communicate in sign language. So we have in our department, a good amount of staff who are deaf themselves, as well as also, hearing people who, for whatever reason, know sign. So not interpreters is not what we're looking for. Just
like people to help facilitate communications more so.
Or yeah, who can do that position with the ASL skill component.
Do you reach out to colleges that have students, ASL students?
Yeah, so we've reached out to URI and BCC. I'm trying to think of the local ones, but haven't had a ton of success, a ton of response to that outreach. But that is something we've, tried to tap into.
So maybe that's something, if we had some kind of a flyer or kind of things that we can share through networks, and maybe the students that already have an interest. Is it full-time work that you're looking for, part-time, or is it a combination of both?
Either or, yep. It's very flexible. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And is it all in-person communications, or is it some like this with the Zoom that they help with that kind of communication?
It's primarily in person.
Primarily in person. And are they situated at your offices? And I know you have one in North Kingstown and one in Warwick, or is it just it's more out in the community?
So it's primarily we have two residential programs or group homes. One's located in West Warwick and one is located in Coventry. So it's primarily those locations.
So again, if you could share some kind of a flyer on what you're looking for, we have a lot of connections into the school networks and disability centers inside those schools, and that might be a great resource. Ernest?
Yes, and I just thought about it. Rhode Island College, Rick, has a strong ASL program, and perhaps maybe you can contact the Rhode Island College. about the information that you have employment positions available at Perspectives, and maybe some of the students who are at Rhode Island College or others that work at Rhode Island College may be interested in those positions. And also that you can express the fact that, I think it would be nice to state your perspective in terms of the fact that you're looking for people, and that we work basically with, and you can even set up a vlog or something where you can do that in sign language and then basically post that on a website where people can see that there's a need for a job position to be filled. And then you can basically, advocate for your own position at Perspectives. We can partner with you. I will let Denise make that decision, but I think it would be nice if Perspectives and I work together to part of that, set up some type of video, make a vlog, and so we can use it as a recruitment tool, maybe at a job fair as well, and be able to explain some of the job descriptions in terms of what you're looking for besides just somebody who knows ASA, but specifically what type of job descriptions you're looking to fill as well.
Jeannie?
Heather, did you want to say something? I see that you had your hand up, Heather. No, it's okay. You can go first, Jeannie, then I'll go after you. Okay, fine. Okay, so I was wondering, perhaps maybe Perspectives, have you already contacted ORS? I'm not sure if you already did that. Did you reach out to Office of Rehabilitation Services? You have any experience of working with ORS, because they themselves are basically looking to place people into positions of employment, and they work with a large population who are deaf and hard of hearing as well. So I don't know if you've already done that, but basically you can use ORS to market your job positions that need to be filled, and because they have a pool of people that are looking for work as well.
Yeah, those are great suggestions, Ernest and Jeannie. I'm not sure about recently with ORS, but it's definitely something to revisit. I don't know if that's something we've done in the past, but that's a great idea for something to revisit now.
And Paul, could you come up for a second? So Paul, that's on our committee, is also with the Office of Rehabilitation Services in the Deaf and Hard of Hearing Department. Is that something you're familiar with, Paul, about Perspectives employment opportunities? And you're muted.
I'm sorry, could you repeat the question?
I was just wondering, we were just mentioning ORS, and is something that is been publicized that ORS knows Perspectives looking for employment for individuals for direct support for the hearing?
Well, I don't know if you saw the in the chat in the comment, but I asked Rochelle to email me the job postings. And email me in general, and maybe we can connect.
And Rochelle, you can just send anything to me and I'll forward it on. You have my connection, so I'll forward it on. But I definitely think we could, to be able to share, we're all different parts of, the deaf and hard of hearing community. So definitely, I think we can all share that information and, like Ernest said, have a signing blog and ways to do it different ways. So I think that's fabulous. Heather, you had a question?
Yes. I'm really excited, on many different levels, because there's a lot of layers to this. We have people, focusing on recruitment. My responsibility is basically the general public in terms of work experience, because I have, Jan here. I have a lot of people here who's been a lot of experience. Jean, because we have Jean here. And, as an agency, we're really focused on developing, really good, friendly deaf workers, providing them, accessibility and matching them in terms of providing them with interpreting services, and also the staff, their learning patterns and their journey and stuff, those insights. We want to take it up to a higher quality of having a better experience for the deaf and hard of hearing staff, as well as the people we serve. And also, we want to, develop the skills with the hearing people that are in our agency already to improve their sign language skills too. So I don't know if they have anybody out there that provides that kind of service. I know that people are really struggling with that to find that. You know, the webinar and stuff, it was very wonderful about the information we're giving out, you know, and we're really trying to, you know, we're in a time now where everybody's being innovative and creative, you know, and thinking outside the box, you know, how to approach different things now because we're basically a virtual place, but how to get the word out there. And it's very interesting to see the change that have taken place and the creativity that's been happening with a lot of agencies across the board. And so we're now in a system where a time period where we're really helping each other, helping people, you know, and marketing, you know, is taking on a different phase. And it's not just for helping, you know, deaf people, but also helping hearing people. You know, just everybody's looking for jobs right now because this pandemic has set a lot of people back without work. So our needs, and we found out that, you know, there's a gap in our needs, you know, and within the deaf and hard of hearing community, there's big gaps, and we're struggling with that. So also, I am also vice president of the Rhode Island Association of the Deaf. I reached out to those individuals, and they're having a lot of issues as well. So it seems that some people, you know, are really have a mindset that's not flexible or thinking outside the box. And so we need, you know, to make things very simple, to make things easy for those people who don't think outside the box. And so, you know, there's a mindset that we're trying to break with a lot of people because we're living in a time now where everything is different. I know that the commission, you know, has been very wonderful with their resources and creating blogs. And they're capturing, you know, a certain population that they're trying to serve in this community, which is the deaf and hard of hearing. And so we like these meetings that we're having because it's a creative space where we can work safely together. And we're also living at a time where a lot of people cannot, unfortunately, afford a lot of technology and stuff like that in the world we're living in now. And so that compounds the problem.
And I do think that I'm in groups that there's been a lot of discussion about the lack of connectivity, which again, you know, if you don't have a job and you can't afford connectivity, that is a huge obstacle. Devices is a huge obstacle. I can tell you there is something coming out in the next few weeks that's emergency, which you might know of, the emergency broadband coverage, that there's going to be money coming out to give people, I don't know if it's going to be either free or reduced internet connectivity and money towards devices. So that's something that, like I said, is supposed to happen in the next few weeks. One of the things I don't know if you're familiar with the ATEL program. We provide adaptive telephone equipment for people with hearing, speech, and neuromuscular disabilities. So we do free phones, free iPhones, and free Android phones. We don't pay for people's monthly bill, but the federal Lifeline program, you can get free minutes with a phone. So the federal Lifeline program, they give you a free smartphone if you're of lower income with a certain amount of minutes and data and texting. However, it is a refurbished Android. The ATEL program we have the iPhone SE and the Android Pixel. So we provide those for individuals in Rhode Island that, you know, income qualify. So again, there's ways of getting technology. There's also PCs for people that you can get for $15 a month, low income internet with the purchase of a router. And there's partners that are looking to do that for us. So there are a lot of things coming in the next month or two. So again, I see you can't job search if you don't have connectivity, and you know, like many of us here, we're all working in our homes. So again, that is a big obstacle to employment if you can't connect like we all are doing now. So I think that's also a big way that we can help spread the word, is helping get people connected to the right technology. So hopefully there's going to be a lot more information on that coming in the next few weeks. So again, we'll get back to you with Ernest, and hopefully we can do some blogs and maybe have, you know, some kind of a flyer that we can advertise out. And I think we have connections into the educational community as well, not just the committee of individuals. I actually see so many students that are so excited about taking ASL and learning, and there is a lot of excitement out there. So I think a lot of students might, especially if there's part-time work, that they could do that in conjunction with their studies if there's flexibility involved. So I think that might be a great resource to get people excited. So thank you for coming today. And like I said, feel free to drop in anytime, and we hope to keep sharing and keeping the communication open. So thank you, Heather and Rochelle. Ernest?
Yes, before you leave, yes. Yeah, I also wanted to add something, okay? Yes. When we speak about the students at the college level, it is a good opportunity to utilize that population because HSTP is basically working on a grant right now with Rhode Island College, which is now setting up a ASL program, and it's going to require months of training and so forth. And it's basically focused for the medical field to get qualified interpreters to be able to work in the medical field. So I'm currently working on that. So that grant is actually going to be utilized. It's already up and running in this summer, and they're looking for class to start. So those people that will be joining that program will be working in the medical field and, getting that certificate to be medically qualified to work in the medical genre. And then also those people may be able to work in perspectives as well, because there is some health issues there in terms of serving that population with mental health and so forth. And that's part of the medical interpreting. And so that is a field that, piggybacks on the medical interpreting as well. So if we got that information out there and sent out a flyer to Rhode Island College that there are job opportunities at Perspectives, I'm sure that a lot of students will basically jump on board with that. Right now, the people that we have right now don't have a lot of signing skills, at the high school level, because they're learning just the foundation, the preliminary. But upon completion of this program at Rhode Island College, they will be, more advanced, and hopefully that might be enough just to get them in the door to work in Perspectives with that population of the people they serve. I'm sure that a lot of people would be interested in using their sign language skills upon, completing the course there. And then in the future, we're also trying to build our interpreter pool so that they remain in the state of Rhode Island and to continue to work as a freelance interpreter as well. So I would be more than happy to share this information about Perspectives, your needs, about the job opportunities, and share that with Marie Lynch over at Rhode Island College and get that out there.
That sounds very exciting. Thank you, Ernest, for that information. Does anybody else have anything else they want to say? Okay, we're going to move on to our next agenda item. We had talked at our last meeting about role models for the deaf and hard of hearing for employees for successful work. So we were just, I know, brainstorming last time, and we did come up with a list of, trying to think how many people here. So about 10 individuals that could be potential speakers. So this is a free form, like just this is all it is a thinking out loud kind of thing. If people want to share their thoughts on what they think, a role model type webinar of maybe people, like I said, that have had successes. Paul?
Yeah, I wanted to just talk about like the general format. I think maybe if we had a person prepare, not a speech really, but just a short summary of their experiences and how they overcame some of the roadblocks, and then maybe a question and answer kind of format. Just throwing that out there. I'm just interested to see how it'll coalesce.
I think that sounds, in my opinion, I think that kind of sounds great to see. How did you get the great job that you got? So if there are people that, what were the obstacles? How did you come over it? Did you have somebody support you? And I was thinking, that's just something I was thinking is, if we could have people volunteer to be like a role model, like that they could actually, after the fact, that if people, another sounding board to go after, like if you had a question and you heard a role model say, I did this and I had and this worked for me, but they, and then somebody watching it says, well, that's kind of what's happening for me. And maybe being able to have some kind of place where people could share that information, on a maybe like a separate website on employment, and disability, where people can chime in on things and how they overcame things. So it can be kind of like a working, where people are sharing information on a regular basis so that it could keep it going. So if somebody had a question, they could put it out there to our role models, and that they can keep an active correspondence. And then other people can look in and see, oh, look what they did. And maybe, I could do that. So I was thinking of coming up with some kind of a Facebook page or something that discusses employment, with the deaf and hard of hearing community, and people making suggestions, and inviting role models into that to help support the questions and answers. It was just kind of a thought. Does anybody have any thoughts they want to share?
I just wanted to type in and say, I think that's a great idea, and I really like your idea so far. However, I'm a little bit more reluctant about the role model, because in some ways it makes me feel even more of a failure than I already feel, in a sense of, oh, well, this person got a full-time job and everything, and you don't. So you're not, quote, successful compared to them. So I'm a
Sorry,
little
can you
bit,
repeat that? I had a hard time. I apologize. Can you repeat that sentence, please?
sure. I just that I don't know if role model is the best word we can use, because I feel like if someone put someone up as a role model, and then there's that internal comparison going on, where if I see like you got a whole panel of full-time employed deaf people, then I just feel even more of a failure than I already mentally feel. So I'm wondering if there should be a better word, or if you should have more of a variety of people on that panel, such as people actively looking for jobs, part-time workers, etc.
Okay, that's very interesting. Thank you, Amy. Bethany?
I like that point, Amy. And I'm wondering if it kind of how we did the previous webinar with resumes and LinkedIn, if it can be something that's a little, or no, it wasn't that. I apologize. The job fair, where it was more of a focus on different industries. So we're looking at people from various industries instead of focusing on, the role model aspect, looking at like just here's a representative from this industry, this was their experience. And as far as gathering questions from the community, because sometimes I myself am slightly anxious and a shy person. I rather text my questions and responses to people, perhaps. And also sometimes if you make questions open-ended, they can kind of run off and get negative. Perhaps if we kind of, like we did to poll for the webinars, if we send out polls, has this affected you? Has this affected you? Common things that we've already received feedback on. So that's just my 2 cents.
I like
Thank
that
you,
idea
Bethany.
of that.
Okay, Jan? You're muted?
You're muted, Jen.
I keep doing that. And I do know how to use Zoom. I do. Amy, I can't understand why anybody would ever consider you a failure. You said, I think you have 2 master's degrees. So I would think it's a failure on the part of other people to not see the value there. Certainly not your failure. Just wanted to say that.
Anybody else have anything to add to?
Jeannie has her hand raised.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, I'm trying to think out the box right now. So what I'm thinking, it seems that, we provide resources and information, seminars and so forth for the deaf and hard of hearing, who have been struggling about, with the barriers they're facing. So I'm wondering, as I said, thinking out of the box in terms of setting up some type of forum, have a forum discussion, not formal, informal. Okay, where we can just kind of run the pendulum and basically, because remember, what one person's experience may not apply to everybody else's experience. So just to have an open discussion across the pendulum where, there are different backgrounds, different experiences, stuff, and unique problems that each one can, had. So we don't want to have something that where everybody had the same, experience about the barriers, but finding about, getting a variety of forums. So the way to get that is a forum for people looking for jobs in general. Okay, and now some of the employers might be involved in that, and invite them, because why? A lot of the employers are unaware of some of the barriers that are in place that people are going through. So have them in there as well. So that gives them an opportunity during the forum to become aware of the barriers that are out there for other people. So it'd be twofold. You have a forum where you have people that are, going through the barriers and the struggles, and the people who are not knowing any better, who create these barriers, so that gives an educational experience for them to be aware of it, so that they can basically change the format of what they're doing. And then they would participate in actually removing some of the barriers themselves. Like I said, not on purpose. A lot of people just create barriers without even realizing they're barriers. Something like that. So I think like some type of open forum for both employers and people who have faced the barriers.
I
Amy?
actually personally love that idea, by the way.
Thank you, Amy. Anybody else have anything to say on that? So that might be a very interesting way to approach it, just employers and employees that want to communicate, where maybe the employer that might be interested in hiring more deaf and hard of hearing employees, but doesn't know the struggles that the deaf and hard of hearing people are having, and how they can become more receptive and again, just sharing experiences. So maybe instead of having a panel, have invited in people that have different experiences. I'm just trying to see how we can format that a little bit. When we say a forum, do we just invite employers, people that are employed, or people that are underemployed? So does anybody have a little bit more information on how they think we could format that and how it would look? Jan?
No, I just have a question. The original idea for this panel was, my thought, maybe I'm wrong, was more so that people attending could ask questions of, like, if they were interested in one of the fields that somebody was working in, they could say, what's the best way to do that, to get there? What do I need to do? I'm not sure. I don't remember our discussion about this. It's a while ago and I don't have it in front of me. So I'm wondering, I still would think that that would be valuable if we had a good cross section of people on the panel. I don't know. What was the whole purpose of the panel? Was to inspire people, or was it to have the attendees be able to ask questions about how the person got where they are?
Well, that's what I was kind of thinking, that the purpose was to try to see how people, what barriers people ran into and how they found ways around it. And maybe I would love to see people that we invite, that they would be on some kind of a format, that people, that a communication happening, that they have somebody to ask if they had a question, or they, the employer said, well, I know there's always, there's Jan, that, website, and there's different things, but sometimes just having a person to talk to and say, hey, I'm interviewing here and this is the problem I'm having. So that was just some of the thoughts I was having. So this whole meeting discussion right now, just kind of putting the thoughts out there.
I still think that's valuable. I would think. I wish I'd had that like when I was in high school. Nobody pointed me in any direction. I really had no help that way. So,
Thank you, Jan. Simon, do you need to take a break or how?
No, I'm fine, we can go.
We can keep going? Okay. Anybody else have anything to add on that? So maybe that's something that we can kind of further discuss via email. We'll shoot some thoughts out, like what, I'll put some things together and do a little more research and maybe come up with a format that we kind of all agree to. So again, I think it's maybe not call it role models, but again, maybe we focus on different fields. And if somebody is interested in a certain field, that there's maybe, a person they can reach out to that might have connections in that field, or, help support them in that field. So maybe over the next month, that's something that we can think about. I'll send some emails out and, we'll kind of correspond that way. And maybe by our next meeting, we can have a little bit more direction on where we would like to go next on that. Does that sound good for everyone? Okay. Okay. Does anybody else have anything they want to add at this meeting or at the end of our agenda? I have a question in the chat from Heather. 1 second. And then I'll go to you, Jan. Are people not involved in the committee allowed to participate in the conversation as well, or is this limited? I think we would love everyone to have an opinion. So the more the merrier. So I would love any kind of correspondence. And Heather, if you want to be in on the conversation, I'd be more than happy to include you. Again, we are looking to involve as many people in the community. I think more voices, and the better. I think the more that we're involved, the better. You had something else to say, Heather?
I really appreciate that. Thank you for that opportunity, because I think brainstorming with lots of, people is really a good way to go, and to keep this conversation alive and to keep it, influenced with new ideas and new experiences. In the 15 years of my experience of working, my second job, I think the first job that I had was at a pizza place, but I did learn a lot though from the hearing environment of working with hearing people. And then when I started working with the deaf and hard of hearing population and perspectives, it was an interesting journey because I learned a lot. And so through all the learnings that I've, through perspective, I've worked in a lot of different departments. And as I went through the different departments, I, got to work with people who went through different journeys, and I got to experience that and sharing their information that they shared with me. And the experience of learning, I cannot tell you how much is learned, but at the same time, people are vulnerable. As an employee, we want to support that person, because the people that are struggling with these barriers, they're vulnerable. And so specifically for the deaf and hard of hearing people, because there's a gap, and the gap is basically information. The gap is, experience. The gap is not knowing how to acquire, plus the stresses of daily life that they're already facing because of trying to make ends meet financially, and so I've learned so much, and working with the deaf blind, I've learned a lot there. Personally, I found that there should be a balance between guiding someone, supporting someone, and encouraging someone, because you can't just take them by the hand and do it all for them, and so these boundaries are there. You have to set expectations, and let people know that, we want to give people assistance, but it's a journey that they make on their own. So now when you talk about a forum, I'm also thinking about employers, who have that experience. I think that's great, because you got those that are facing the barriers, those who are unaware of those barriers that have, set that up, so that they're learning from the people who face the barriers and vice versa. Okay, and so because everybody that's going through this journey is at a different place, and everybody has different issues, and so having that diverse background and diverse panelists there is more beneficial. There's no right and wrong way, but basically having all there because something that's going to be shared and discussed at that panel is going to benefit someone.
Thank you very much, Heather. And I think a lot of times people aren't aware that there are lots, especially with technology, there's lots of ways to overcome barriers. And if they're not familiar with the deaf and hard of hearing world, they don't even know maybe who to call. And so I think again, I do believe the more the merrier, the more perspectives that we have, the better, turnout we'll have. So I will, like I said, we'll start a correspondence about the format. It looks like what what I'm getting the feel is that we would like to have people that in it, a combination of people that are unemployed and underemployed, people that are employed in different workforces, and employers that might want to improve the amount of disabilities in their work environment. So, but we'll share over the next month before our next meeting, and then have a little bit more of a format for our next meeting. So I think Amy has to leave. Goodbye, and thank you, Amy. So our next meeting, if we could schedule for next month. So that would be March 25th at 2:30. How does that work for everybody?
What time?
2:30 on March 25th. Okay, no objections. Okay, so we'll keep the ball rolling. You had something to say, Jan?
So meanwhile, before the next meeting, well, first, I'd love to have, if Heather Needbala was interested, have her be a part of this panel. I think it would be
Absolutely.
helpful.
Yes,
Um,
thank you.
But the other thing is, if she wants to, I know she's a busy person. What are we doing in the meantime? Are we supposed to, what are we,
I'm going to send out an email, and we'll just try to get our thoughts together, and I'll put Heather in on this correspondence as well. We'll put some thoughts out, and then keep the discussion going, and then hopefully by our next meeting, we'll have a vision of what we like it to look like. I think we kind of got to do some research a little bit, see what looks good to us. And then, like I said, over the course of the next month, I'll send some emails and we'll try to correspond. I'll come up with some thoughts about what we were talking about, and see if people have ideas, and we'll keep formatting it. It's kind of what I was thinking. Anybody else? Jan, you want to say something?
I wonder if we should do some kind of survey again on what people in the community would like from us. I mean, we did the, we did the job fair, we did the ADA, and now, I know we did one before.
Yes, and the second topic was kind of what we're discussing, which is employment and underemployment. So I think that kind of is what they.
So it is on, oh, good. Okay.
Yeah, so I kind of think that was what one of the ADA and reasonable accommodation seemed to be the first, knowing people's rights. And I know Ernest and Bethany and Pam are working on the website where there'll be more of a place to go for employers and employees. So that I do think that if you were a deaf and hard of hearing person and could refer to a website for supports, you know, again, people that aren't in the deaf and hard of hearing world don't really know all the supports that are out there for them. So if there was an easy place for an employee to go or an employer to go to find resources, I think that that's helpful. So I think as we're trying to, I think just trying to make a more open conversation about if there's an obstacle, there's easier ways to, there's ways to overcome them and hire people that are really willing to work, and they just need a few accommodations to make that, you know, their job a success. So, so again, I think, like I said, we've gotten some discussion out there. I think we'll put it through the emails. You have Jeannie, you have something to say?
Yes. Okay, in reference to the survey, I was just thinking, maybe this is a little different, but what about having a survey to the employers and the companies and sending it out to them? And then ask those employers, what about the persons of disability? How many, what are your numbers at your company? Do you have 20% of people that have disabilities in your workforce? You know, and just give them a chance, and let's give them something to think about, you know, and just to get an idea. So they may not even be on their radar. You know, they may not be comfortable sharing that information. But the point is, it doesn't hurt to send that survey out, because then it puts it on the radar. And then those who do discuss how many employees they have with disabilities, then ask them, you know, part of the survey, what kind of accommodations are you giving them? What have you done to lessen the barriers for these potential employees that you finally did hire, and so forth? So I don't know if that's kind of a sticky, you know, situation to put them on, but, you know, it's something that needs to be discussed. It's something that we need to talk about, and they may not be comfortable talking about, but creating an opportunity for the survey for them to be able to discuss these things in a safe place, and maybe bring some of their concerns they have with us as well. So, you know, I don't know. You know, it's not like us against them, but it's us how we can all work together.
So Jeannie, on that question, if you were to send that survey out on the commission, which is how we did it on their listserv, you're probably going to get the people that already employ people with disabilities. So what would you think would be a good way to get a survey out like that? What would be your way to get that out to the people that aren't aware of, again, I think if we did that through the commission survey like we did before, we would get the people that are doing what they should be doing. So thoughts on that, Jeannie?
You know, just send them out, you know, just sort of, you know, just target all, you know, Walmart, Target, just send them out to anybody randomly. Restaurants, Applebee's, just send them out. Send out a generic to all these corporations, you know. I know that, you know, it might be a cost of a lot of money to send them out. Maybe we can do, or maybe we can just, you know, target them by emails to their HR departments of all these different corporations. Okay, regardless of what the answers may be, just contact and you send out an email to the corporate headquarters of all these different companies. Okay, we already know that we got people working for them, you know, deaf or hard of hearing, whatever it is. So obviously some of them, you know, answer the questions because they have these employees working for them. But, you know, there are others out there that probably are trying to find people with disabilities, but they don't know how to go about where to get these people from. Okay, so we can't assume anything. So, you know, I think we should just, you know, send something out, contact HR of those different companies, and, you know, and contact the majority of the companies out there, and just wait to see who responds to that. You know, I'm not really sure how to do it. I'm just saying there's a company, you know, because we'd like to reach out and hear their thoughts on it. You know, right? So, because those are the companies that we really need to work on, the ones that, you know, don't have people that are disabled working on their workforce. You know, so we just want to basically open up the door for discussion for the potential opportunity of how they can become more involved. I mean, I'm just throwing it out there.
I think it's a great idea. I just don't know. I think we need to discuss, and maybe Bethany could chime in on this. What if we're just sending a random survey out to somebody that we're not on, that's not used to receiving information from the commission on the deaf and hard of hearing, are they going to respond to it, or does it have to be more of a mailing kind of way to do it? So Bethany, do you have any suggestions on outreaching that community?
I would defer with mailings to Ernest, but I think that what Jeannie was discussing, I think that I like the idea of throwing the information out there to open up the door for discussion. I think that if it was something that we are welcoming people that, you know, weren't people that were in our previous forums and our previous events, it would be something more of not questioning them directly, but presenting them with the current statistics and then being like, and how is your company, you know, providing accommodations, and how is your company opening up doors, instead of putting them on the spot of like, provide us with your statistics. So maybe that's a way to kind of spin it so that it's welcoming and we keep them there for the discussion and we open the doors. But I would defer to Ernest about any type of mailings that.
Ernest, do you want to comment on that?
Yes. I agree with Bethany. I think, you know, we want to use a very warm approach. We could send them a hard copy letter, or we could do an email. I think I would like to find out, you know, there's a lot of private industries, you know, they're hard to contact. It's hard to get their email. It's hard, you know, get to the right person. So I could work with Bethany on how to find out what's the best way to get to the HR department. You know, I don't want to do a cold call or something like that. Or maybe we can even do phone calls and just do a survey and, you know, do something short and sweet, but with an understanding that this is not threatening, but we're doing something, you know, where we're looking to create opportunities for companies and potential employees. And maybe they're not aware of the barriers, you know, maybe we could offer them training if they wanted training, you know, so I could work with Bethany on that, but offer them, you know, an opportunity to discuss these matters and to let them know that we're here to help them learn as well.
So I know, okay, go ahead, Jan.
You're on mute, Jan. I can't hear you.
Third time. I'm sorry. Okay, so I think you know, Jeannie probably knows this too, as far as, and Paul, contacting employers, I get more mileage if I'm asking them what they need. So if we start out by asking them, what is it you need in an employee, and what are you looking for? And then sort of come at them, you know, so we don't scare them away. Sound like we're threatening to, you know, count up their, how many people they have that have disabilities that work for them. We're more, you know, I get more mileage asking them what they need. And then once, if they get back to us, then we can say, okay, here we go. I mean, when the ADA was passed, in the 90s, I was doing ADA presentations at businesses. And because it scared so many businesses, they thought it was going to be so expensive to, you know, and sometimes an accommodation costs nothing or very, very little, if they just, you know, think it through. So, so I think to start by asking them, you know, maybe they have a lot of turnover in their employees, and they're not sure why, or what do they need? What are they looking for? To start with that, and then get into the other meat of what we want to talk about with them.
Yeah. So maybe we're talking about two different topics, and I think reaching out to companies that are not on the commission's web, you know, on their listservs and things that they are not familiar with, that could be a campaign that we work on, identifying employers, and then maybe at later down when we have some time to do that, then we have a forum of employers and answering their questions and things, and having employees and having that employer-employee things in the future when we actually have identified employers that are maybe more employers, not just a job fair, but just educating the employers on, you know, that there are rights. You can say it nicely, but there are, I know you have to have a certain amount of people with disabilities in your workforce and things like that. So I think that's something that maybe with Ernest and Bethany that, coming up, I think you just got a comment on there, coming up with a list and then approaching them maybe, after a few months so we can work on that, and then approaching them with another kind of forum, more of a forum with lots of employers and saying that, are you aware, of the people that you just like we said, accommodations could not be that expensive, or there's support for that. So maybe that's something with the employers that we can develop over the next few months as a next goal, and invite them in for discussions and educate them in. I'm thinking the employer part and sending that all out, that we can work on a list and kind of target people and maybe have a date that we kind of invite them and we give them, maybe a 101 on how to help, inquire people with disabilities into their workforce. So again, I think that's great suggestions. I think that's going to take a little more than a month. So maybe we just start on like having a discussion over the next month on our next webinar, but keep it more about employees' journeys, maybe something like that. So I know Simon has been going for an hour, so I'm going to wrap it up. And again, we will share information over the next month and we'll go on with this conversation from there, but have a little time to research some stuff and get a direction for our next project. So anybody else have anything else to add? Jan?
You're on mute, Jan.
I'm so troublesome. Are we dropping the panel idea? Or are we going to proceed with that and do this other thing? It seems like almost two things.
That's what I was trying to say. I think we should make the employment more down the line, work on that try to identify people in human resources at the different big companies in Rhode Island and invite them to something different that maybe is more catered to what they need to know about accommodations and things like that. So I'm thinking that is more of a couple month project that we work on a list, and maybe we can all take some time to try to identify companies with a contact, that if people we know a contact there, versus I just think we send out information and they don't really have any connection to the commission, that they're not going to really be that receptive. But if we can kind of develop something, again, more a little longer term and more do our forum. But I'll put this again, I know we're a new committee trying to find our direction. So again, I'll put something out and we'll see over the next few weeks what course it takes. So we'll take suggestions, and we hopefully by our next month, we'll have direction on our next webinar. And again, I think the company idea is a great thing that we start to all come up with. If we have connections into HR and different companies in Rhode Island, that we come up with that list so we can do that as well. And again, we'll bring that up at our next meeting. If anybody doesn't have anything else, thank you, Simon, and our captioners. And we'll see you next month. But again, I will be sending some email correspondence and we'll go in that direction. All right, thank you, everyone.